I have been asked to discuss the progress of my students today to see if they have made enough growth. I have been told that this information will count as 50% of my evaluation.
What data are you going to look at to see if they have made enough growth?
I guess I will have to start with the DRA2 scores from the fall and compare them with the scores I have now. I do not teach reading to all of my students, however. They split up into 7 different groups for the hour of instruction each day.
If you do not teach them all, how will you decide which data to take into account in your evaluation?
I am not sure. I know that my students need to show a year's growth in a year's time. However, when they do their CSAP tests, they have only been in school for 6 months. Right now, it's February. They have not taken the test yet. Also, my principal has observed me 4 times, and has told me she has to write up my evaluation, based on the data available now.
Is it possible to show a year's growth in a year's time in that case? Moreover, do you have enough data on the students you do teach?
I don't know. Anyway, I do not teach a good 2/3 of my class during reading instruction. If they make good progress, I cannot take the credit. If they are not successful, I will probably get all of the credit regardless.
That sucks.
That's only part of it. I do not teach all my students for math either. I teach students from my class and 3 other classes.
Are they doing well in your class?
Yes. But I have all the talented and gifted students for math. I should be getting good results. I know that I am a good teacher, but the scales are tilted in my direction with these students.
What other student data are going to be used in your evaluation?
I have to include writing scores too. But I teach 3rd grade. There are no formalized assessments before 3rd grade. This is a time for establishing baselines.
Are they all at grade level?
No. It is very hard to become a proficient writer when you are 8 or 9 years old. Many of them are still struggling with decoding text when reading. This makes it difficult to become a good writer.
I see. How about your best writers? Are they proficient now?
Some are close. But how many adults do you know that remember to punctuate their written work correctly all the time? Over 50% of the CSAP test is graded on punctuation and grammar. Do you happen to know what a modifier is?
Should I know what a modifier is? I was brought up in the time of whole language. We were not expected to learn any grammar.
Exactly.
What do you think helps students to be successful writers at the age of 9?
It is very important that they come from homes where they are read to on a daily basis. It also helps if they see people using written language all the time.
That makes sense.
Yes. So if students are brought up in this kind of environment, they tend to do better. But there is no guarantee. It is a bit of a crapshoot.
What if they are brought up in a literature-poor environment? How does this impact them and you?
I need to model for them by providing a literature and literacy-rich environment. Then I have to make sure to stuff enough of it into a day so that it makes up for a couple of years' delay in growth. Even if all my lesson plans are well written and go to plan, I can't guarantee that Sally or Johnny will be paying close attention to my pearls of wisdom. And believe me, there are plenty of pearls.
How so?
They start the day hungry and tired. They often get to bed late and have lived through experiences that simply get in the way of doing homework. Their hierarchy of needs tends to be focused on food and survival, rather than reading books.
Bummer.
I know. Right. I do my best to encourage them to be engaged and on task, but sometimes it feels like a losing battle.
How many of your students were reading below grade level when they came into your class this year?
40% were not at grade level. Many of them live in poverty and struggle to make ends meet. It is clear that although most of the parents care enough to turn up to conferences and want their children to do well, they do not have the tools to support the learning at home.
How about their math skills?
I have some great mathematicians. I teach them in my advanced group. But there are many who have little or no number sense. They have been exposed to investigations math since kindergarten, but for them, it is not helping.
Why do you think that is?
I am not sure. They seem to have little or no life experience with using number.
Have you received good feedback about your teaching through the observations?
It is difficult to tell. She likes to use cognitive coaching techniques. So, in effect, I end up talking to myself as she parrots back to me everything I say. She may think I am doing great. She may think that I suck. It is difficult to tell.
Has she given you any written feedback yet?
No. Not yet. I think that I am probably going to have to write up most of my evaluation myself too. At least, she has asked me to write pages of stuff linked to my goals.
What were your goals?
To increase student achievement in reading, writing and math by a year's growth, in a year's time.
I thought you decided that was not possible. Why did you write this goal?
I did not feel that I had a choice. I am still a probationary teacher. I do not have the cajones to argue the stupidity of setting a goal that is not practical given the time frame, or the complexity of having to unravel who is responsible for which student's growth. I have to be certain to be seen as a team player, even if the game seems to be rigged for failure.
Sounds like a delicate situation to balance, my friend. What are you going to do?
Play the game. If my data is confusing to both of us in terms of who is responsible for what, she may have to change how she represents my responsibility for student growth in the final evaluation. Or she could just make it up. Who is going to check? Right.
How many of you are on the evaluation cycle this year?
30 teachers. That's a lot of data to look at. There has to be some fudging, right?
I would say that something has to give. Well, best of luck, my friend. You know where I am, if you want to talk.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Perhaps I will pop my head in to see you before I leave school this evening. So long for now.
Okay. Later.